The bank manager said, "You emptied your account yesterday. I was in surgery yesterday for 9 hours. I stood in the Bank of America lobby on Wednesday morning with my post-operative discharge papers still in my jacket pocket, trying to understand what Christina Devereaux was telling me. She was the branch manager, a woman in her 40s with perfectly styled auburn hair and a concerned expression that didn't quite reach her eyes. She'd called me into her office after I tried to withdraw money for my prescriptions, and now she was showing me transaction records on her computer screen that made absolutely no sense. According to her monitor, at 2:47 p.m. yesterday afternoon, someone walked into this exact branch and withdrew $43,000 from my savings account. The entire balance cleared out in a single transaction. The withdrawal slip had my signature on it. The security footage showed someone who looked like me handing over my ID, my account information, everything. But yesterday at 2:47 p.m., I was on an operating table at Memorial Hospital having a tumor removed from my kidney. I had 9 hours of surgery with 12 different medical professionals who could verify my exact location during every second of that withdrawal. Christina pulled up the security footage and turned her monitor so I could see it better. The man on screen wore a navy jacket similar to mine, had short dark hair like mine, and moved with a confidence that suggested he belonged there. The camera angle didn't capture his face clearly, just the top of his head and his hands as he filled out forms. But those hands had my watch on them. My father's vintage Omega Seamaster that he'd given me before he died. My college ring with the engineering insignia I'd worn for 15 years. The man was wearing my jewelry. My hands started shaking as I watched the footage. Christina kept talking about fraud protection protocols and how they'd need to investigate before restoring funds, but her words became background noise. Someone had studied me carefully enough to replicate my watch, my jacket, my signature, my mannerisms. Someone had walked into this bank with my identification and my account information and stolen everything I had while I was unconscious and being cut open 3 miles away. I pulled out my phone and showed Christina my hospital wristband, still on my arm. I showed her the discharge papers with the timestamp showing I'd been released at 6:30 a.m. this morning. I pulled up the surgical consent forms I'd signed 2 days ago, listing the procedure, the expected duration, the risks. Christina looked at everything with the same professional concern, making notes on her tablet, but something in her expression suggested she didn't entirely believe me. "Your signature matches exactly," she said, pointing to the withdrawal slip on her screen. "And the man knew your account password, your security questions, everything. He answered questions about your first pet's name, your mother's maiden name, details only you should know. I understand you're saying you were in surgery, but we need documentation from the hospital. Surgeon's notes, operative reports, something official that proves you couldn't have been here." I felt my face flush with anger and confusion. "You think I'm lying about having surgery? You think I somehow orchestrated withdrawing my own money and then came back the next day pretending to be confused about it? Why would I do that?" Christina's expression shifted slightly, becoming more guarded. "Mr. Castellano, I'm not accusing you of anything, but we see attempted fraud every week, and sometimes people try creative approaches. I need to follow our protocols. Once you provide documentation proving you were at Memorial Hospital during the withdrawal time, we can file a formal fraud claim and begin the investigation process." I walked out of that bank feeling like the world had tilted sideways. My phone rang before I even reached my car. It was Dr. Kapoor, my surgeon, calling to check on my recovery. When I explained what just happened, she immediately offered to send over my complete surgical records, operative notes, anesthesia logs, everything time-stamped and documented. She sounded outraged on my behalf, saying she'd personally call the bank if needed. But even with her support, I felt a growing dread in my stomach that had nothing to do with my incision pain. Someone had been inside my apartment. Full story on my channel and linked below.